Hello, my name is Miriam Udel. I am Associate Professor of Yiddish Language, Literature, and Culture at Emory University, and I'm teaching here at Drisha. Today I'd like to share some thoughts on the beginning of the book that we are reading anew starting this week, Sefer Vayikra. I'd like to go right to the beginning. Vayikra Moshe Vaydaber Hashem Elav Me'ohel Moed Lemor. God called Moshe and spoke to him from the tent of meeting, saying, seems like a throwaway verse. We haven't told you yet what he's going to say. He's going to say a lot about the Olah sacrifice and then move on to other kinds of sacrifice. But that's not what I want to talk about today. I'd like to talk about this so-called throwaway verse and the way that the rabbis, that Chazal, find and make meaning in this verse as a window onto how they make meaning throughout Sefer Vayikra. So I'd like to look at the third discussion of Vayikra Rabbah, which is very long and complicated, but it starts out with the premise that the book of Chronicles, Divrei Hayamim, is given for no other purpose than that of creating interesting interpretations. And they set out to prove this by quoting two extremely boring verses of genealogy, talking about how so-and-so was the son of so-and-so, born to so-and-so, and you really can't make heads or tails of it until the rabbis come along and tell you all of these so-and-sos, all of these various names actually refer to one person, and that's Moshe. And then they go through and they give etymologies for how each name connects with some attribute of Moshe's or some instance from his life. So, for example, one name is Avigdor, and they say this relates to Moshe because he was the father of the fences, who made the fence of the law around the people. Another name is Chever, and they say this relates to Moshe because he connected or he attached the people of Israel to their creator, their God, who is in heaven. So it goes through this way. And then finally, the verse relates that all of these people were born of the Yehudia, who's identified with Yocheved, with Moshe's mother. And there's a mention of Bitya Bat Paro. This is actually the verse where we find out the name of Pharaoh's daughter, and we find out that she's been assigned the name of Batya. And the Midrash has God saying to Batya, Moshe lo haya benech, vekarat oto benech. Moshe was not in fact your son, but you called him your son, and you treated him as your son. Af at lo at biti, va'ani kore otach biti. So too with you. You are not my biological daughter, now in the sense of not having been born to the Jewish people, which the rabbis understood as a kind of maximal, biological, as it were, connection with God. Even though you were not born to the people, you've chosen to join the people. And so I'm treating you as if you are my daughter, a fact that is reflected in your name, Batya, daughter of God. Now, the Midrash goes on and it counts up these names again, and it turns out that the Midrash understands this whole long list of names as giving honor and dignity and even glory to Batya and her courageous act of rescuing Moshe. So at the end of the Midrash, it says, Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe, Chayecha, mikol shemot shenikra'u lecha, eini koreh lecha, ela b'shem shekarata lach Bitya bat Paro. He says, Moshe, I swear to you, of all of the many names by which you have been called, I choose to call you exclusively by the name that was conferred upon you by Batya. And that's why our book of Vayikra begins with Vatikra Shmo Moshe, that it was specifically Moshe, that name, to the exclusion of all others, that God chose as a form of address to Moshe. Now I'd like to go on and talk about the specifics of the name Moshe that Batya assigned. So the text of the Torah itself gives an etymology. Batya says, Moshe ki min hamayim meshitihu, because I have pulled him from the water. And Chizkuni, the medieval commentator, asks, well, did Paro's daughter, this Egyptian princess, speak Hebrew? How come she was able to assign him a Hebrew name and even to furnish a Hebrew language etymology for it? And he quotes two traditions. One tradition coming from the Gemara and Sota says that yes, as part of Batya's conversion to the Jewish people, she did indeed learn Hebrew. But the second idea that he presents is even more intriguing. He says, no, Batya didn't know Hebrew, but she gave the child to Yocheved to nurse, and Yocheved named him imaginatively with this name, almost in Batya's voice. And she gave the child back at the end of the appointed time for nursing, and Batya said, what does this name mean, this name that you're calling him? And Yocheved explained it, and Batya said, yes, that's perfect, that's apposite, because indeed, min hamayim meshitihu, I pulled him forth from the water. And then Chizkuni goes on to specify that she liked that it said that the name was Moshe and not Mashui, that it was the puller and not the pulled, because just as she pulled him from the water, he was going to go on and pull others. He was going to pull Bnei Israel out of the land of Egypt. Shabbat Shalom.